Good afternoon. Welcome to this content discovery session with me and my colleague Kieran. I am the Chief Cyber Officer here at Immersive Labs. We're going to be talking about content discovery, so how you find labs, what we've done, the latest things that are coming out, what things are coming soon, a variety of things. So to start off, I'll just give you a bit of background to me. I'm the Chief Cyber Officer here at Immersive Labs. I've been here 2.5 years now, which is quite long in our lifetime. And a bit of my background: I started life as a private investigator, and then went into the Met Police and joined there investigating commercial crime, fraud, and e-crime as well. Worked in the money laundering units and did some work with the organised crime units there as well. And then following that, I joined the intelligence service GCHQ as a contractor and was involved in a lot of training that they were doing there. And as part of that, I also did training for the summer school at GCHQ, and that's where I met actually what then became our CEO, James Hadley. And as we were teaching this summer school and writing it for classroom training, that's where kind of James got the idea for Immersive Labs, and that's obviously he left there 4 years ago now and set up Immersive Labs, and I joined him subsequently after that. And I'll be talking a bit about how that all the experience we had there shaped what we have now, and then how it's changed since then, and how the vision has kind of expanded over the last few years as we've been growing so fast. I'm joined today by a colleague, Kieran Rowley. He's the head of customer success. I'll just pass over to Kieran to introduce himself.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. So, yeah, as Max said, my name's Kieran. I'm the head of the customer success team here at Immersive Labs. Essentially, what that means is, I spend lots of time speaking to customers, helping them drive return on investment, get the most value possible from our platform. Again, I've also been here 2.5 years or thereabouts. So in that time, I've spoken to lots of customers, lots of potential customers, seen lots of different use cases. A little bit about my background. I also come from a learning and development background, and in particular designing cybersecurity courses for UK government and for kind of teenagers looking to get into cybersecurity. So yeah, essentially I'm here today to give you a bit of a guided tour of some of the most recent releases on our platform to help you find the content that is the most relevant to you and your cybersecurity teams.
Thanks, Kieran. So yeah, we'll jump straight in, and yeah, I should have mentioned I kind of went through what I did before, and what I should mention now, I'm looking after the whole content team. So all the team that write the labs, not that develop the platform, but the ones that write the labs that you do. So a bit of agenda for today. We'll talk a bit about human cyber readiness. If you haven't heard us talk about it before, what is it, how we do it, and again, how that's driving our vision. And then I'll talk a bit about the content strategy, kind of pull the curtain back a bit about what we do here at Immersive Labs in the content team, how we decide to develop content, how we do that, and the changes we've been making recently, things like role, series, and skill paths I'll talk about. And then I'll pass over to Kieran, and he'll go through a demo of the platform, looking at the best ways to find the best content for you. Obviously, he's done this a lot with, I'm sure, a lot of you as well in terms of our customers. And then also be talking about our structured learning, so how we are really kind of ahead of the market in terms of mapping to structured learning paths for your whole organization. And then pass back to me towards the end, and I'll talk a bit about the roadmap for 2021. So we're expanding as ever. We're expanding pretty fast, and so we've got a lot more content coming that should hopefully excite you all. And then at the end, we'll do some Q&A as well. Feel free to add questions into the chat as well, and we'll try to get to them depending on where we are in the webinar. I'll keep an eye on them, and then we'll answer them when and if, or wait for the end, depending on what the questions are. Great. So cybersecurity, as we say, is a human challenge. And this is what our kind of tagline. We believe everyone in every business should stand prepared for every cyber threat. And that's really the whole core to what we do at Immersive Labs. You will see, and you will, I'm sure, have used lots of cybersecurity vendors, and they will do lots of different things with technology and maybe process. But what we're concentrating on is the human. And as you know, hackers are humans, and so really what we're concentrating on is how do we make that human part better. And that's what we're all about here at Immersive Labs. And so what we're trying to do is this thing called human cyber readiness. So when we were teaching all these young people, very bright people, cybersecurity, what we found was classroom training sometimes didn't work very well. It was, 9 till 5 doesn't work for certain people. They've got other things to do, and in terms of learning in a classroom, the classical training was quite restrictive in that some people would be slower learners, some people would be faster learners, some people didn't like learning in a classroom at all. They wanted to be learning at 2 a.m. On their own rather than being kind of taught PowerPoint. So there's a whole variety of things, which is why James left and set up Immersive Labs. So that kind of went into really the core of how we started life. And the top right here, the cybersecurity teams, that was what we were all about, for the first year or two, just concentrating on building labs to really get your cybersecurity teams equipped better to deal with the threat landscape. And I think the core there is still what we do. We want you to be doing things you would really be doing in your day job. So it's not like I will fill out a 10-question survey and therefore I am good at cybersecurity. We want to kind of throw that kind of whole concept away. And really the point is, why are you doing training? What is the point in going on a training course or doing self-training on your own or whatever? It's not to get a week out of the office. It might be, but for the people paying for it, it's generally not about getting a week out of the office. It's about making you more ready to deal with the threats that are out there. And in terms of cyber, obviously, if you're not dealing with realistic threats, or you're dealing with a threat that was out 10 years ago, it's just not really going to help you. And so that was the whole point of originally we were, how do we rapidly shift your learning and get you up to date with the threat landscape? And that's where our kind of hands-on labs came from, and our same-day labs and the labs that come out, the cyber threat intelligence labs. But what we've done over the last year or two is really expand to cover the whole organization. And these are the other kind of areas that I'll cover here. Business leaders. So, the people at the top, how well are they ready to deal with a cybersecurity threat? You will have all seen multiple pretty catastrophic kind of attacks on different businesses, some that have gone out of business, some that are kind of carry on but are much worse off. And really, if the business leaders aren't on board with the cybersecurity teams when the worst happens, there's not so much you can do, really. Your cybersecurity teams might be the best in the world, but if your business leaders aren't aware and prepared for that threat, then it's not really going to help your whole organization. So we've developed our cyber crisis simulator, which is there to help business leaders deal with cyber crises. And the other ones, development and engineering teams. Obviously, this vulnerabilities in your code is getting as important as ever. And so the different development teams and engineering teams that are writing the platforms that we have all our data on need to understand the problems with those codes that I'm sure the cybersecurity teams are constantly kind of trying to champion how to secure code securely and things like that. So what we have there is we have a application security part of the platform, and we're currently developing, which I'll talk a bit about later, our cloud security one as well. So expanding into labs in those areas as well, because what we found is, and this was really driven by customers, the customers asked us, well, you do this with our cybersecurity teams, can you also do this for our developers? And obviously we looked into that, and we innovated, and that's where those new parts of the platform came from. And then lastly, the cybersecurity hiring teams. We've recently developed a part of the platform that will assess and screen your talent coming into cybersecurity or any of your development teams, engineering teams, based on our labs. So you can do some labs into this screening. You can see, give that out to any number of people, and then it will be able to show exactly how good that person is based on the labs that they've been set, and it'll give you a whole score, accuracy, and all that stuff. So a non-biased way of seeing exactly how good someone's technical skills are without even knowing anything about them. So that's the kind of fourth element there. And lots of you, I'm sure, will know the NIST cybersecurity framework. We've kind of put a few of these into that, the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover kind of 5-stage there. So obviously protecting your networks, that is our core business in terms of your cybersecurity labs, understanding exactly how to stop those vulnerabilities before they get into your network. Obviously, that the same for engineers and developers. If you can stop that vulnerable code being put into production before it even gets there, you're moving left, right? You're shifting left. You are getting ahead of the problem. Then obviously detection. So getting the right people. You want more likely to detect anything that's going on, and the same, driving the right careers to detect those attacks that are going on, and then respond. So how do you respond once it's happened? And I think all the latest crisis simulations say you should prepare for it happening. It will happen. What do you do when it has happened? Rather than, you can obviously do everything you can to protect yourself before it, but you also have to prepare for when the worst happens and what you're going to do in response to that. And then, so this is getting a bit behind the curtain of how we do things. So we call it the 3 E's, the equipping, exercising, and evidencing. And this is really how we look at what we do is different to the kind of classic training or anything. And this is really what brings this human cyber readiness together. So what you want is, you want your staff to be equipped, and staff could mean from the CEO down to the security teams and all the way down to the receptionist. So equip those people with the knowledge and the skills to be able to understand the important things when it comes to cyber. And then obviously exercising them is really important as well. So that's part of how do we know that when it happens, some attack or some threat comes in, that you're going to deal with it. And what we like is doing that in the most realistic way possible. So the whole point about the labs are, can we give it to you in the most realistic way? So obviously equipping, we will start to really show you the basics depending on your level, and then exercising, you'll test you out to see how good you are against real threats. And then as part of that, brings that all together, evidencing. So the good thing about how our platform works and all the labs being compartmentalized down, it means we can generate a huge amount of evidence to then prove to the managers or the CISO or whoever is looking at that to prove that, yeah, we have evidence that you are this much better equipped to deal with any cyber threat. And you'll see there's lots of words in here that I will talk about a bit about when I talk about the content strategy, like coach, demonstrate, simulate, score, track, and all those things. So this is really the cool graphic that shows really where we're trying to go from. Traditional kind of training is one side of it, but this is really moving away from that into how do we just make sure everyone in the business is prepared for any cyber threat. And so this is our content strategy. There's a few words that I'll go through here. Equip, exercise, and evidence I've already talked about, but that kind of links to what we call coach, demonstrate, and challenge. This is really internal, mostly internal, how we refer to the labs, because I think depending on how long you've been with Immersive Labs, you will have seen the evolution in how our labs are written and what they do. So originally we kind of had one type of lab. So write a lab and it would teach you something, or it would upskill you, or it would be a challenge or something like that. But what we realized pretty quickly, and from feedback from customers, was that different types of labs are required to do different things. So if there is a junior person and they've not got any experience in cyber at all, it's their first day, you can't really throw them in at the deep end when they've never seen you know, a log ever. You can't just go, oh, by the way, this is a malware attack, go and work it out. And so what we've done is we've split that into what we call coach, demonstrate, and challenge, and it's kind of self-explanatory. We have coach labs which will coach you through any skill that we cover. So whether it's log analysis or incident response, anything like that, that will coach you. So there might be a set of labs that will walk you through the basics, whether it is Elasticsearch or, you know, any other tool. There'll be a set of labs. They will hopefully, depending on the difficulty, will go from beginner and then get you to a certain point where you understand if it's that tool or the technique you're looking at. And then the demonstrate labs, and you might have seen some of them come on the platform already. These are what I call kind of boss level labs. So you've done, say, 10 labs that are coach, and then the last lab will be the demonstrate lab, and that is really a lab that will test you across all the skills you've learned in the coach one. So it makes you demonstrate your knowledge. And again, this was generally, we thought up this whole strategy based on customer feedback. You know, as you know, we don't give hints and tips, but there's very good reasons for that. And it's very different to, you know, we do not look at ourselves as e-learning or kind of online training because of that reason. You know, there are very good e-learning platforms out there that you can go and kind of sit and watch videos and understand the knowledge. But what we want to do is really test you and make you do something, particularly in the practical labs, make you do something that you wouldn't in a kind of video learning or e-learning thing, where you have to get that mindset of, okay, I need to keep trying to work it out, because, you know, in real life you don't get given the answers. And so that's and how we've dealt with that. But we do understand it must be hard for people who haven't got the pre-knowledge. So this is how we're dealing with it. We have our coach labs and then demonstrate labs, and then the challenge ones. These are really linked more to the exercising part of it. So a challenge of it's a real life situation and it's real life malware, and then you go and challenge yourself to deal with that threat. And so those labs are more the scenario based labs. We have CTFs and things like that. So that's the kind of way we split them into those three. And then roles, series, and skill paths. As you will have seen recently, there's been quite a change in the UX and the UI of the platform. We have roles now. We have series and skill paths. I'll let Kieran on his demo go through what they are. But the reason for that was, again, we now have over 1,000 labs on the platform. So that's a lot of content. And how do you find the content that is the perfect thing that you need to upskill you or your team to get there? So, you know, firstly, the series and skill paths will then are packaged into roles, and hopefully the roles will help you find the content that is the best thing that you need. And that's exactly why, you know, we've got so much content that we do have it all categorized in the ways that we do, but what we're trying to make it as many ways as possible of cutting the cake, and so you can get the best out of our platform. What we do have, this is relatively recent as well, we've got multiple off-platform series. So generally, if you're cybersecurity, if you have cybersecurity licenses, you'll have over 1,000 labs. But there are a number of series now, like the offensive CTF and defensive CTF that I've got a picture here, that don't sit on that commercial platform. And so if you didn't know that, that's good. And if you want to run events or CTFs, that's what they're there for. Is because what we found is people do want to run various events throughout the year, but they also don't want the labs that they may, or some people in the team might have done. So we don't want to give the kind of answers away beforehand. So that's what they're for. So we've got a variety of series on there. And again, talk to your customer success representative like Kieran if you do want to do any of them. And then recently we've changed our content kind of marketing release strategy as well. We were pumping out labs we had a 4 lab a week minimum. We've actually kind of surpassed that a long time now, but we've actually kind of relaxed how we do it. So it's not particularly every week, but it's more we'll drop a whole series and with the appropriate marketing and release. So it's kind of you will see that coming more and more where we do a whole series, so it makes more sense. Because at the time, it looked like there are random labs coming out every week. There was always a strategy behind what labs are being released, but I think dropping them as a series makes it easier for us to market, but also easier for you to consume them as well. And then lastly, I'll just kind of quickly say lots of stuff coming up, and we can maybe talk about this more in the Q&A. Things like assigning roles and series and skill paths. Like I know as soon as people saw them, the first thing they asked was, oh, can we assign these as objectives and things like that. We now have badges on the platform. You will have seen that, but can we do more with badges? Can we share badges? So more things are coming with badges. Again, more roles. So as we're expanding the content team rapidly at the moment, so we're getting a lot of new people in, and that will necessarily mean that we're going to get more roles, more series, global search functionality as well, and NIST and NIST NICE mapping, which we already, Kieran is better to talk about this, but we already do that behind the scenes. So all our labs are mapped to NIST NICE, but we currently don't show that on the platform, which will obviously come in due course as well. There's a lot of me talking, but I think I will hand over now to Kieran. If I just, this is the test now for us.
Yeah. And by the magic of GoToMeeting, hopefully you can all see my screen now.
Yeah, that's great.
Excellent. Okay. So thanks for that, Max. So as I said in my introduction, I speak to a lot of customers every day, and as Max alluded to, with over 1,000 labs in the platform now, up here you can see 1,011 at current count. One of the first questions I get is, how can I find the content that's relevant to me? How can I find the content that's relevant to my teams? And if you're completely new to Immersive Labs and you've not even managed to get on the platform yet, maybe you just got a license today, I'd encourage you first and foremost to click on the browse link in the top bar. Hopefully that goes without saying. And have a look around, have a browse, as the name would suggest. Assuming that many of you on the call today have been with us a little bit longer, you will have noticed recently that we have really overhauled this user interface. So gone are the days, for those of you who've been with us for a while, of the spacemen, and we had kind of 8 tiles where we put all of our content, and it was very difficult to drill down into the relevant categories. Now you can see in our new navigation system, as you scroll down here, lots of different categories, top level categories of content. So as you can see, it starts with the fundamentals, as you might expect, and it moves down through other topic areas like offensive, defensive, etc. And already you can see, we're really proud of the amount of content that we've got, but already you can see I'm scrolling and it might not be the most accessible. So I just wanted to share with you today some practical tips that will help you kind of drill right down to the lab that you're looking for. So first and foremost, maybe obviously, but I do want to draw your attention to these filters on the left-hand side. So if, I'm going to take the example throughout this webinar of a SOC team, working in a defensive role, working in a blue team. If that's you, or if that's what you're looking for, then I'd encourage you obviously to click on this defensive filter, and immediately you can see how our list, we've dug a level down, we're into subcategories already, and we're starting to kind of home in on the content that's relevant to you. So perhaps you're responsible for packet analysis using tools like Wireshark. Perhaps you're heavily involved in incident response and you want to drill a little deeper into here. Again, you then get these next kind of level down filters. So taking incident response as an example there, you can see, we've limited it immediately to these kind of categories here. As Max alluded to, some of these are series and some of them are skill paths. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of definition of the two. So essentially, series are collections of labs that we believe fit into a large topic area, a large area of kind of skills. So incident response, for example, has many facets to it. There's many tools that you might need to learn about. There's many areas of incident response that you would want to be kind of familiar with. So that's a series. And if I click into series, you can see, if I click into this series, you can see that there's many labs in there, 15 labs over 2 pages. And once you complete them all, you will get the digital badge for this series. And you'll be able to kind of show on your profile in the future. Perhaps you can share it on your social media that you are, skilled in incident response. If I go back one level and I show you a skill path to show you the difference, essentially a skill path is a collection of labs which is a lot more specific than a wide topic like incident response. So here, we're talking specifically about packet analysis, and actually we're specifically talking about Wireshark most of the time here. And as Max said, in here, there are a number of coach labs, as he called them, so that you can learn what Wireshark is, what packet analysis is, how to do it. We'll step you through it. We'll hold your hand through these difficulty level 4 labs. But you can see the difficulty level does start to increase, and it goes all the way up to difficulty level 7, which has this digital badge next to its name. It's a demonstrate lab. So if actually you're listening to me talking and you're thinking this is all great, but I'm an expert in Wireshark, I've been doing packet analysis for years, I just want to come in and prove that I can do this, I don't want to go through all of these entry-level labs, these more fundamental labs, then you can start and finish here. This lab will collect together everything that we've tried to coach and everything we've tried to equip you with over the course of all these other labs, and test you, challenge you. Can you do it? And if you can, that's the point at which you'll get the badge for this particular skill path. So that's just a bit of detail about the difference between the two. A few more practical tips on how to find the content that's relevant for you. You can also up here just see the full list of all of the labs on our platform, which may not seem like the most sensible way to kind of cut through our content, but actually you get more filters hidden away in here. So if, for example, you're looking to do something new, so a lab you've not started before, and you're looking for something, fairly straightforward. So let's say difficulty level 3, and maybe you want to complete it on your lunch break. So you want something that's less than 60 minutes. Immediately you can see I've gone from 1,000 labs down to 8 labs, and it might be that some of these labs are relevant to you. Alternatively, if I clear some of these filters, you might be interested in our cyber threat intelligence labs. So they are the labs that we release as quickly as possible. We aim to get them out as quickly as possible when a vulnerability or a threat hits the headlines, hits the intelligence feeds, becomes global news. And as you can see here, in the last 7 days, we've released one lab, one lab on a very relevant, very recent, should I say, CVE. So if you want to make sure that you are maintaining your knowledge about the very latest cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities, this is where I would encourage you to come. Search by lab, filter by our new arrivals, and stay on top of the labs that appear in these results. Of course, you might want to dig a little deeper and see everything that we've released within the last month. You can do that as well. You can see there's lots of CVEs in here, as well as our recent CAN Bus series, which is the most recent series that we released. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. finally, from this browse page, I do want to dig in a little bit into this role, searching by roles, as Max has already alluded to. This is a game changer for us, if I'm honest. We have, as Max said, mapped all of our labs where appropriate to NIST's NICE Cybersecurity Workforce Framework. That is essentially a list of all of the jobs that exist within cybersecurity and all of the things that you need to know and all of the things that you should be able to do in order to perform that job at different capability levels. And having taken the time, and it was a really onerous task for Max's team, I know that, but having done that work, we're now able to present to you various different roles in cybersecurity. We've started with 19 plus these kind of additional 3 at the top, which I'll talk about in a minute. There's many more to come. So as you scroll down here, you will recognize many of the job roles, I'm sure, within your kind of industry and within your organization. And what I want to point out to you is just pay attention to the colors, actually, because they do have some relevance. So there's something called the NIST Cybersecurity color wheel, I believe, and we've kind of mapped to that as well. We're alluding to that. So these orange tabs at the top here, orange teaming apparently is all around cybersecurity education, and so we've collected together all of the labs that we found you needed to know, regardless of what job you do and regardless of what career trajectory you're on. So in here, as you would imagine, there's things like staying safe online, law, ethics, introduction to cybersecurity topics. Then we move up through fundamentals. So, what is a network? What are the different protocols? What are the common operating systems that you need to know about and need to be able to use? We just kind of gently ease you into those through these kind of 3 topic areas. And then management, risk and compliance, obviously there's a lot about governance in there. There's a lot about different kind of standards, etc., that we all need to comply to. So once you've if you're looking to get started with Immersive Labs, if you're looking for where to start, I would recommend that you come in, you search by role, and you try and complete these orange tabs first and foremost. They will give you a good grounding in cybersecurity. And then from there, you can build. So taking the example of a SOC analyst again, if you're looking to get into SOC analysis, or maybe you've landed your first role, or you're looking to refresh your memory, go back over the basics, see how it's how the job role has maybe changed over the years, you can build into this role and then move up through intermediate, and I'm sure over time there will be advanced or expert tiles in here as well to really test and challenge you. So that is another way in which you can find content that's relevant to you, if you are in or if you are looking to move into a specific work role or career. Moving on from that, I also want to just draw your attention really to the MITRE ATT&CK framework that we have in our platform. So if you've never clicked this link, I'd encourage you to do so. If you're not familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, it's another framework, but instead of being an educational framework or a work role framework, as I alluded to with NIST, this is essentially a big table of all of the techniques, the tactics that hackers use in order to attack, in order to get into our networks, in order to remain undiscovered, create a foothold, stay there, and get data out, or kind of cause damage while they're in there. And essentially, you can trace a attack from left to right. So every attack means that the hackers had to get access, they had to execute some code, they had to create a persistent connection and escalate their privileges, etc. If you click on any one of these tiles, you will see a list of our most recently mapped labs to that technique. So if in this example you've identified a weakness in be it your own kind of knowledge, a skill gap, if you were, or if you are looking to shore up your company networks and you've identified some vulnerabilities, identified that you're potentially vulnerable to exploiting public-facing applications, here's one way to find some labs that are going to be relevant to you immediately. Click one of these 5 links. It's that simple, really. To make it a bit more complicated, or to add a bit more detail to that, we have a link out to MITRE's website whenever you click one of these tiles. So if I click that there, hopefully many of you will be familiar with this website, but if you're not, essentially there's an explanation of what exploiting public-facing applications is, who does it, which attack groups have been observed to be carrying out these types of attacks, and more importantly for our purposes, how you can detect that it's happening or mitigate against it. But what I want to show you is a little pro tip that I love, which is every technique has this identification number over here, this T number. If you copy that, take it back into our platform and hit search, what you'll actually find when I search for that T number is, rather than just those 5 labs that were recommended to you in the framework table, there's actually 45 labs on our platform that will help you prepare and understand for that particular technique. So again, just kind of showing you the depth of content that we have on our platform and showing you how you can dig down a little deeper into it. So, again, 45 labs, still quite a big number, but again, you've got these filters on the left-hand side to help you dig down a bit deeper. Moving on from MITRE, the last thing I want to share with you today, the last little tip, is this often overlooked news link on the right of the header bar here. I think that there might be an assumption that this is where we put all of our kind of marketing, or that perhaps there's lots of kind of articles in here about Immersive Labs as a company, perhaps. But I mean, that is true, but also I want to encourage you to come in here and look at some of the blogs that we're releasing, because a lot of them are really like nice long form articles with additional information about the latest threats and vulnerabilities, and as you'll see, links out to specific labs. So you can see that even today, we've released a new blog on Patch Tuesday, recent kind of comments on recent patches. You can see here there's a blog post all about our new Canvas series, which I mentioned, but in particular I want to click on this one here, our recent Salt Stack blog. And Max, actually, maybe you want to just say a little bit about why we wrote this blog and what it's all about.
Yeah, so one of our teams, so what we do, the content team is obviously full of cybersecurity experts, and what we do, as well as have our long form, we're looking at the kind of creating the series and creating roles. What we also do for the cyber threat intelligence stuff is keep our eye out for the latest threats. But we also do is our own threat research. And this was one of our content engineers, Matt Rowling's, and what he did, as you saw that note on Patch Tuesday, we go through kind of all the latest. So came out yesterday, and we go through all the latest patches to see if there's anything in there. And Matt did go through Salt Stack and had a look to see if there was any other vulnerabilities, because obviously there was a very famous one that came out recently that was attacked. But what he did was find another vulnerability and submitted that CVE under our responsible disclosure, and actually has been waiting about 3 months for it. So we obviously we do it in a responsible way along lines of the information security industry, the best practice. But so we were waiting about 3 months for them to patch that, and then we could release this research and the lab associated with it as well, when he managed to exploit that and get a proof of concept exploit as well. So that's and then he writes it all up here, so you can see exactly how he did it. So as you see, it's a lot deeper than just either we're going to release a lab teaching you something. It's actually we're doing the research, finding new vulnerabilities, and then when appropriate, we're releasing them as labs as well.
Thanks, Max. And yeah, I personally think this is really exciting. So, we're doing our own research in-house. We're working with companies to disclose vulnerabilities. And so ultimately, on the day when they are disclosed, we have labs ready to go so that you, our users, can get hands-on with it. And that was kind of the point that I wanted to show you. Like I say, it's really long form, lots of great information in here. And at the bottom, a link to the lab, so that you can get hands-on with this vulnerability on the day that it is public knowledge, essentially. And finally, if none of that works for you, if our skill paths don't work, our series don't work, the different frameworks that we've mapped to don't work, there's always our objectives. So if you, particularly those of you who are managers on the call, but users as well, if you are looking for something else, if you've got a specific collection of labs you'd like to bring together, you can do that through objectives. So you can see here that Immersive Labs, in fact, let me go to browse here. Immersive Labs regularly release objectives, collections of content which we think are useful, relevant. You can see we released 4 objectives back when we had the original lockdown nearly a year ago, about remote working and how to protect yourself when you're working from home. You can see the amount of potential content. As I dig down here a bit further, you'll see, let me actually, these are better examples. These top 2, these have been put together by managers on my platform. So they're not created by Immersive Labs, they're created by my colleagues, because they had a specific need to collect together some labs which they couldn't find anywhere else in our platform. So just to say that if none of those other tools and techniques are kind of working for you, those kind of hints of how to find labs that are relevant to you, you can always kind of do it yourself. You can make your own objectives and you can assign those to your users. And if you don't have management access on the platform, and that you think there's a good use case for that, please speak to your manager. Speak to your platform admin. I'm sure they can come and talk to me or a member of my team, and we can help you develop those. So if you've got a specific need for a specific collection of content, we can help you put that together as well. So that's all from me, really. Just to recap, like I said, I'd encourage you to click on browse, use the filters, look at the different series and skill paths, look at the different frameworks that we've used, NIST and MITRE to create roles, also, please keep an eye on the news section, because there's some really useful and exciting stuff in there. But now I'll hand back to Max.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. I'll just make sure I share the right screen. I think that's the one. So yeah, as you see, lots of exciting ways to get access to the content. But another thing that I'm sure whenever we talk to customers, they're always really excited about what new content is coming as well, which is a constant iteration process, I suppose, when we talk about our team, is looking at where we can fill gaps and where we can build out new content and things like that. I just thought I'd show you a bit of this. This is, you can see the kind of lines: business leaders, cybersecurity teams, development and engineering teams, and then hiring teams. And see, this is kind of the H1 highlights for stuff that is coming. And the thing that we're most excited about, really, I think, is cloud security. The team have been working on some pretty cool tech. We have built some patentable tech within our platform that will allow us to do really hands-on cloud labs. So at the moment, most of the labs on there are kind of theory labs, and there's a few practical ones on there, but keep your eyes out. In the next few months, we're going to be, we've put a lot of investment into that, starting with AWS. There's ones on Kubernetes coming out soon, and then we're going to move on to Azure and Google Cloud as well later in the year. So that's definitely one to watch. Quite exciting stuff there. And then application security, if you've been looking at or you've been doing any of the application security labs, this is another area that we've been expanding very quickly. We've got a whole new team looking at that. I think they did about 100 labs in the last quarter of last year, and so they're going to be expanding to different languages and different roles. And again, if you're in the cybersecurity team and you do think this product would be good for your application security team or your secure coders, yeah, I'm sure we'd be happy to have that conversation as well. It's not a sales pitch, but you know, may as well get that in there. And then web app hacking as well. So we're building out our team and actually collaborating with the AppSec team. So we can do things like that. There's lots of vulnerable apps with the AppSec labs where you have to go and fix the vulnerable apps. But what we're going to do is we're actually kind of pass that over to the web app hacking team, so you can both hack it, and then so the labs will kind of show you how to hack it, but then also show you how to fix it depending on which area you're looking at and what role you have. So really exciting kind of development in web app hacking. The bit that crosses over to business leaders, so we have, as I mentioned, the cyber crisis simulator. What we've done recently is create a kind of proof of concept cyber crisis simulator that actually uses labs as well. So it's the top level decisions you have to make within a cyber crisis, but also then you have to go and actually farm out these labs to your technical teams. So a technical lab where you'd have to go and do, I think there's malware analysis, incident response, there's a bit of cloud in there, there's a bit of AppSec in there, so really across our whole platform. And so this is really showing the future vision, which is where you'll be able to, from the top down, be able to do a kind of fire drill across all your teams and be able to give appropriate labs to the appropriate teams and appropriate decision-making decisions to be made by kind of the business leaders. And then, so it's really testing your whole company like a real cyber crisis would in the real life. Other things, Kieran mentioned, yeah, Canvas. So we've just had a whole series go live on car hacking, which is yeah, quite exciting. If you're interested in ICS and IoT, again, we're going to be building that out this year. And then roles, as we build out new roles coming in forensics, malware analysis, advanced SOC and advanced pen testers as well. That's all coming soon. And then again, we have a new threat hunting team, which is looking at running using the MITRE ATT&CK framework to run whole APT attacks through MITRE ATT&CK using our lab. So again, that's another really exciting part of it. So huge amount of content going on. That's literally just the stuff we're working on this month, pretty much. So there's yeah, there's this year is going to be really good for content. We're definitely ramping up fast to keep the stuff coming for everyone. So now we've got Q&A. So if I've got, I don't know if you can see the questions as well, Kieran. I think I'll let's have a look and see if I can see them using the system. Will there be a recording available? Yes, we can send. There will be a recording available, so we can send that out to you after this. Yeah, I should mention there'll be a survey going out as well. So please fill that in if you want to give us feedback on this session. And yeah, any questions we don't answer, we'll cover. We will email you as well. Are the off-platform CTFs charged separately, or are they part of the subscription? Kieran, I might pass this to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, without kind of the context of kind of who asked the question, it's difficult to answer, I suppose. But what I would say is, you know, if you're interested in running one of those events, please do reach out to your customer success manager, and they'll let you know what the options are. Essentially, we've got a number of red team and blue team challenges in our up our sleeve, shall I say. So as Max said, no one within your organization will have seen them before. And what we can do is, and we've done it for many customers already, is help you run an event, you know, be it a one-day event or a week-long event that will engage you know, your red and blue teams in kind of friendly competition with each other. And yeah, there's obviously a guarantee that no one will have seen that content before, so it will be a challenge for everyone.
Next question, we've got a question about hints and tips, Kieran. I know I mentioned this before. So how do you kind of, if users get frustrated, how do you deal with that and the fact we don't give hints and tips?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So you're absolutely right. We don't offer hints and tips, and we don't give answers away. We don't let people buy clues or reveal the answers, and there's very good reason for that. Our our ethos as a company really is as Max has already said about equipping you and challenging you. Um, as if it were a real world scenario. And unfortunately, in the real world, we don't get to kind of just ask for the answers. If we were staring at a cybersecurity problem right now, if we'd identified a vulnerability in our systems, unfortunately, we do need to go away and do the research to understand the problem and how to fix it. So what we would first encourage you to do, and this goes with every single lab on our platform, is research around the topic. There are information panels in the labs, but they don't necessarily always give you the information that you need to solve the lab. That is by design. Google is your friend. We all work in technology, and we're all used to kind of researching and searching for things online. It might be that you want to pick up a book, if you're that way inclined. It might also be that you want to tap a colleague on the shoulder. That's what I would do in the workplace. And in order to kind of facilitate that, there on every lab, you will see the username of the first person in your organization to complete that lab, and also the most recent person who completed that lab. So if you want to go and tap a colleague on the shoulder, you might want to start with those two people. Another great example or a kind of solution to this that I've seen is within customers, be it Slack or Teams or whatever kind of communication software that you use. I've seen channels created around Immersive Labs or around specific topics within Immersive Labs so that you can share ideas, but in the spirit of things, you may not want to kind of just guide people to the answer. That's not really kind of going to help your team and your colleagues improve, but you might want to discuss topics. And in addition to that, perhaps when we're all allowed back into the office, or you could do it remotely. I've seen other customers run like lunch and learn sessions, where one member of the team can bring up a lab, on the big screen or share their screen over Zoom, whatever it might be, and start a conversation, start a debate about how to solve a lab, and work through it as a team. So you're right, we don't give hints and tips. It is very much against what we do, but there's some more kind of practical solutions of how you might solve that problem.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, we aren't perfect. That occasionally we make errors, and so definitely report any that you do find, because we understand that's frustrating if the lab's not working. But we're also looking at, we have a lot of metrics that we're looking at, and part of our content strategy, we know there's sometimes, it's a huge area, cybersecurity, and we know there's sometimes gaps. So you might jump from something quite simple to something quite hard very quickly. And what we're doing, using the metrics from the data that you supply, we're looking at that and trying to fill those gaps, so we can see where people kind of drop off labs, and we can see where it gets difficult. So that is part of the strategy, is to fill those gaps to make that learning journey kind of smoother as well. Next one, let's have a look. Love the new layout. Oh, good work. I think that's just, thank you. Are the roles customizable? I'll take this one. I think I actually had a meeting about this just this morning. Currently, they're not. This is the first iteration of roles, and as we said before, they're going to be assignable. But I literally had a meeting about this this morning. I would expect them to be customizable within, within a certain time frame, which I can't I can't say at the moment, but that is a need. And as Kieran said, we have objectives as well, which allows you to customize things as well. That should help that. Can
Absolutely.
we do a similar? Sorry, go on, Kieran.
No, I was just going to say on that, if you're looking for a customized collection, then objectives is the answer. If what you want to do is take an existing role and maybe you want to cut it down so there's less labs in there, or you want to add one role, again, speak to your customer success manager. They can help you do that very quickly.
And then there's can we do a similar search with CVE numbers? Yes. Just put the CVE number into the search bar, and that will find it. So that's very easy. Can we get hands on with some immersive merch? We've actually, it's amazing how much in the company there's been internal champions for a whole shop. I don't think we do it at the moment, do we, Kieran? I'm not sure.
No, you have to have been here at least 2.5 years to have this hoodie.
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, it is definitely something we've talked about. So yeah, keep your ear on the news, and if we do, we'll put it on there, of course. Creating more security and compliance and privacy labs. Yeah, that is an area that we're looking to expand as we grow out. Obviously, we're looking. We want the content to cover everyone in a role, and we know, the risk and compliance. There's only 2 series under that, so we know there's a lot of people that in cyber roles that have to do a lot of heavy lifting with compliance and privacy. So yeah, we would be looking to grow that out, but not, I don't think in the first half of this year. Can we have temporary access to licenses so we can set challenges for potential hires? If that's one for you, Kieran, in terms of the screening.
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but essentially the screening product that's kind of coming down the line is the way that is administered essentially is the hiring manager would have access to our catalogue of labs, if you like, or our catalogue of assessments, I should say. So an assessment, again, is another collection, another type of collection of labs. And once those assessments have been set, you have a number of tokens that you can then use to invite would-be applicants, shall we say, to complete those assessments. So that's essentially how it's licensed on a token by token basis.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. With a lot of companies moving to Azure, I wondered when Azure Cloud will become available. Yeah, that's currently for the second half of the year on the roadmap to build Azure. Obviously, our whole platform is on AWS, so there might be some interesting technical hurdles to overcome there, which I'm sure we will. But yeah, that's when it's to start development in H2 this year. Let's just check on the time because we've got about 3 minutes. Let me have an objective set which includes the question on C code security. I'm not a programmer, I'm stuck despite researching the problem. Can I skip on how can I learn to answer the question without learning C? Yeah, I don't know if you've had any question from that, Kieran. It's yeah, don't know if you have a.
It's an interesting question. I am obviously not cited on which objective that is or who set it. So if it's one of the objectives that, well, it doesn't really matter who created it, I suppose, but either, Immersive Labs have created it or one of your managers has created it. It will tell you when you click on the objective who created it. If it was set to you by your manager, then it might be, or one of your management team, it might be worth having a chat with them about the fact that maybe that lab is not kind of applicable to you or to your team or to your work role, and maybe they can update. You can always edit an objective. If, on the other hand, it was set by, if that lab was created by Immersive Labs, I'd be really keen to hear, which objective that is. And again, it depends on who assigned it. But we're always willing to kind of take on feedback and go back and look at the decisions that we've made in the past and potentially update them. So if you want to get in touch, please do either through support. You can direct your email to me, and yeah, we'd be happy to kind of take that one offline and have a look at that objective.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry, I threw that one to you, Kieran. But yeah, I think if there are labs that you can't do within an objective, either talk to your manager or your customer success, and we can help you out, I'm sure. I think that's time's up. There are lots of other questions here. Sorry, I didn't manage to get through them all. We will email you answers to all those questions. Again, yeah, please fill out the survey and tell us how we did. And yeah, love to hear any feedback. I'm always interested in bad feedback because that helps us generate better content for you. So thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good day. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye bye.